Hey y'all, welcome to Healthy Feet for Better Balance. I'm going to take you through a program that includes some massage, some strength work for your feet, some flexibility, and we're going to test our balance at the beginning and then at the end to see if paying special attention to our feet improves our balance. Will be a little experiment. Yeah, come do with me. So this is a very minimal equipment class. You don't need any gear. If you have a tennis ball, grab it up, keep it handy. And then a couple of towels and a couple of hand towels. And by hand towels, I mean about yay big. So you'll need 2 of these if you're doing my little towel thing. And then find a decent sized bath towel that's pretty thick. You're going to put these on your feet and on the floor. So these can be like ratty beach towels. They don't have to be nice towels. So 1 big and 2 small. So pause the video, go get your towels. If you have a tennis ball, come back and see me. Okay, so I took my 1 hand towel, my small towel, and I just ran it under the sink under warm water. And then I wrung it out real good. So it's not dripping, but it's got some warm water. I'm gonna pull my camera down a little bit. See me? And then I've got my bath towel here folded up on the floor. So all you're gonna do is take your moist, warm towel, lay it down on your bath towel, and then wrap up your feet real good. So I've just wrapped my feet, and then I've put my big towel just to make my feet stay nice and warm. That's it. We're just gonna hang out while I talk about foot anatomy and show you some photos. So we're in here for the rest of the time. I'm not gonna make you run out and get any more stuff. Just settle in. Notice how this feels to have some warm, moist heat on your feet. Feels pretty good, yeah? Okay, so these are, look at these sweet baby feet. Oh my gosh, you just want to squeeze them. This is what your feet looked like when you were a baby. Notice how wide this part is. There's a long triangle shape where the toes are spread wide. So my guess is you are here today because you have some kind of balance issues, foot dysfunction, pain. Most of us do, especially as an adult. I want to talk a little bit about things you can do today to take care of your feet. None of this should hurt. If any of this, if I'm telling you to do something, you go, oh, that doesn't feel good, stop immediately. You could watch this whole video and just take this information in. So you don't have to do any of this with me today. You could experiment with different versions of some of these exercises, but our number one thing is do not do anything that hurts. Yeah, agree? Yeah. So we've been cooking in the hot towel for a minute. It's probably starting to cool off. So whenever you're ready, you can take your towel out. And then I went ahead and got rid of my wet towel, but if you still have a wet towel, you can keep it and just see if you can kind of scrub the bottoms of your feet, give a little gentle massage, and then do a little scrubby. So we're doing some quick massage. I'm gonna blaze us through some foot exercises. Already you might be feeling better from just this little bit of massagey and yeah, heat on your feet. And then move your big towel and your wet towel. So take them elsewhere so they are out of the way so that you don't trip on anything. So take a moment, pause the video if you need to, go put the wet towel in the sink. And then let's go ahead and start a balance test. So we're just going to stand and balance on one leg. I'm going to get my timer. Again, if this hurts, don't do it. If you need a balance buddy, come and stand and put your hand on the chair. All right, I got my timer going. You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. We got 1 minute standing on one foot. If you need the wall or the chair, go stand near a wall and just notice. Now, as we're doing this balance, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about feet position. If you can, spread your toes wide. So I'm not gripping with my toes and I'm not scrunching them together. I'm spreading them out. Here's another view of my foot. Now I've got kind of weird little monkey toes. I can spread my toes quite a bit, but the wider you can spread, and we're already 30 seconds in, the wider your base of support, the easier it'll be to balance. So just notice as we're standing here, do you have the ability to spread your toes so that your foot looks like a little duck's foot? If you can hang with me for another 10 seconds, that'll give us our minute. Whoa. And it's okay if you're kind of wobbly on your balance. 4, 3, 2, 1. That's 1 minute. Come on down, take a rest, take a walk. How did that feel to balance leg number 1? Because now we're going to do leg number 2. This is just an experiment. Okay, hang on to the chair, hang on to the wall. 3, 2, 1, go. We got leg number 2. We're going to try to balance 1 minute. Again, spread your toes. So if you need to, kind of spread them out like so. Take your finger maybe and wedge them open. Yeah. All right, I got our timer going. Let's just see. Can we do 1 minute, leg number 2? So if this feels really easy, you could move a little bit. You could move your body. You could turn your head and look left and right. If this is like, whoa, this is plenty, just standing still, just stay where you are. Here's the view from the front. See how my toes are spread? Notice if you're doing the bird on the twig thing with your toes curling. If so, spread your toes. And again, you might need to reach down and use your fingers. Spread your toes, lift up on your arch. We've got 10 seconds left. Whoa. One more big deep breath. All right, that was our 1 minute side number 2. And then just notice, did side number 1 feel any different than side number 2 when you did your balance? So that's just something to note, and we'll do this again at the end of class. Okay, now we get into the good stuff, the foot massage. If you're able to reach your own foot and sit this way, cross your foot over, and then you can massage. If you can't do that today, if this hurts your knee or your hip, this is why I suggested a tennis ball. You can gently mush on the tennis ball. So I've got other videos where I take you through details on how to do this. I'm just going to suggest this today for if you need that, but I'm going to show a little foot massage. I'm going to grab my big toe and do a little wiggle, wiggle, north and south or front and back, east and west, or pulling apart. So I could do each toe like that. Wiggle, wiggle, pull apart, wiggle, wiggle. I'm just going to blaze through this because I got a bunch of stuff I'm trying to get through today. Each toe, wiggle, wiggle, pull apart. Your big toe, having the ability to do this, to flex and extend your big toe, is a big part of a healthy gait, walking pattern. So if this big toe is kind of stuck and it doesn't really move, or it's kind of bent, that's going to affect how you walk and your standing balance. Okay, let's come up the top of your feet. You can either make a little, like a little bird beat with the tops of your fingers. And I'm just going to mash down. Remember when I showed that picture of all the little bones? I'm in that little valley between each bone. So you could do this with your thumbs or with the tops of your fingers. And two, if this feels weird to do this on yourself, get a partner, get your spouse, find your kid or bribe your grandkid so you could sit with your foot on your partner's lap and they could do this. They can help you. So we're just coming up these little valleys. I'm doing a really gentle little mashy and a mashy. And then I can do the same thing down the bottoms of my feet. I can either grab with my ends of my fingers. I could flip my foot around and take my thumb. So be real nice to your feet. We're just noticing what happens when we mushy up the feet, mushy. Mushy. I could spread my feet. I could spread across the top and bottom. So I could take my feet and the skin and just open and spread. And then same thing across the bottom. I'm spreading. And again, we're just doing stuff that feels really good. And then I could shake hands with my feet. So you might be able to stick one finger in between your big toe and your second toe, or you might be able to get all your fingers in there. If you're like, whoa, that's no way. This would be a good thing for you to practice. We can do a little wiggly, So I'm going to talk later about some toe spacers, but if you struggle to get space in between your toes, there are things you can use. Some of them just stuff real cheap you can get at the drugstore to help give more space in your toes. Okay, we did foot number 1. We're going to do foot number 2. Again, if none of this feels good on this side, just grab a tennis ball and you can real gently mash the bottom of your foot on the tennis ball. If this does feel like an okay position to sit like this, I'm going to wiggle my big toe out and in. I'm going to wiggle each toe left and right and front and back. And as I do this, I'm just noticing, is there a stiffy? I got this toe on this foot is a little bit stiffer on me. Actually, this whole foot is a little stiffer. I've had a couple of minor injuries to my foot. And this ankle tends to be stiffer. Okay, then we did coming up the little valley. So I'm in this little neat valley. You can see when I flex my toes, you can see those tendons pop up. So you can do thumbs, gentle pressure. You could do finger tips. I'm doing about 5 little mashies to get down each of these little, it's like a little row, like a little cornfield. Yeah. Then I'm coming down the bottom side, mashy, 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 mashy. And again, if any of this doesn't feel great, just rest for a second. Wait till we move on to the next thing. Mashy, mashy, mashy. And then that spreading apart of the soft tissue. I can spread the top of my foot. I can spread the bottoms of my foot. Only doing stuff that feels really good. Smushy, smushy. And then either sticking one finger in between your big toe and the rest of your toes. That might be a good goal for today. You might be able to get all 5 fingers in your toe and do some wiggling and wiggling. So we're just doing a little quickie, massagey, waking up the feet. And then take a second and rest your feet and just notice, has the color changed at all? I noticed the color, you can see, look at the difference in my feet now after doing that little bit of stuff. And how do your feet rest on the ground? And then do you notice, again, this is what I call bird on a twig. If your toes are kind of curled under, can you, again, spread your toes? Oh man, I'm going to nickel for every time Ann says, spread your toes during this class. Can you spread your toes? Yeah. So that was our release work. I've got a little organization drill that we're going to try both from seated and from standing. With your toes spread, push down, big toe, pinky toe, heel. So I'm pushing down big toe, pinky toe, and heel, and letting my arch float up. I'm doing it right now. Big toe, pinky toe, heel, push down, arch floats up. And just try that and then relax your feet. Be just kind of lazy. Once more, spread your toes. Push down big toe, pinky toe, heel. Arches float up. So I'm engaging the tiny muscles in my feet, but it's not this and it's not this. I'm not curling under. My toes are spread out. My arches are lifted. We're going to try that same thing from standing. Big toe, pinky toe, heel, push down. Arches lift up. And you might feel these muscles lifting arches and all the way up into your leg. Yeah, see what that feels like to push into your toes, lift your arches. So we did some release work. That is your organization exercise. Notice how that feels to actively lift your arch without curling or rolling out. Okay, you should have one hand towel left, a dry, unused towel. Grab it up, put it on the ground. My heels are on the flooring and the rest of my foot is on the towel. I'm just going to start to claw the towel and drag it towards me. Remember earlier when I was saying, don't do the bird on the twig thing when you were standing? Now we are doing that. I'm using the muscles in my toes and the bottoms of my feet. And then I think even more important than the clawing action, the opposite of that, can you spread your toes and push the towel away? So does that feel easy or challenging to spread your toes, push the towel, and then I'm not picking my toes up, I'm spreading them along the floor. So see, can you spread them and stretch them out flat on the floor versus lift and lower, lift and lower. So I'm uncurling, spreading and flattening. Yeah, take a rest. And then let's try a little heel lift. I'm going to try this from seated and then from standing. If you can see yourself in your screen, or if you're near a mirror, or you can just look down and peek, when you lift and lower your heels, does it feel like your ankle goes straight up over this middle part of your foot, or is there a little rolling out, a little rolling in? Does your left ankle do something different than your right? Let's just do 5 more. Spread your toes, lift and lower your heels, and see if you can go straight up. This part, this bone is stacked right over the middle of your feet. Of course, we're going to try this standing. So hang on to your chair if you need a little balance buddy, or go to the wall. Get organized again. Spread your toes. See how this feels to lift up and lower. So this is your calf raise or your releve from ballet. Can you go straight up? Or is there I see a lot of this very often, or if I've had an injury, if one of my clients had an injury, I'll see some movement off to the side. And can you stay right in that midline? Are you starting to grip your toes? Can you spread your toes? Okay, here's our super duper balance challenge. Come back to the chair if you need to. You can sit for this one or you can stand and try 5 of these, lifting and lowering your heel, one leg off the ground. That's 4. That's 5. I'm going to turn to the side and switch legs. I'm on leg number 2. Lift and lower. How easy or challenging does this feel? 3. Yeah, this is my harder side. This is my weaker ankle. I gotta really work to stay in the middle. Take a little rest. Notice your feet and ankles. So we're starting to get a little work back here, calf muscles. Let us try a little variation on that. So now you can let your ankles walk out to the side. What I was telling you not to do earlier, do that and just see what happens when you sort of lean your ankles out to the side. And you can see my feet and ankles have a different amount of mobility. This is my stickier side. And then I'm going to do rolling in, lift and lower. So I'm leaning more on the big toe side. So this is just something you can experiment with. If you're waiting on your coffee to brew, waiting on a phone call, you can find a countertop in your kitchen maybe, and just play with that, lifting your heel, noticing how many different ways. Let me turn to the back so you can see. So you can lift up and roll your ankles out. You can lift up and roll your ankles in. You could roll them in, lift up and roll them out. Roll them out, lift up and roll them down. Okay, so we did variations on lifting your heels, basically a calf raise. You could load that. You could add weight. You could lift and hold and set a timer and see how long you can hold. So this is something you can experiment with. Let's try the opposite of that. Heels down, lift your toes. So this one I'm going to do 10 of these, lifting my toes, and I should turn to the side. My whole bottom of my foot. So it's not just my toes, but I'm actually flexing at my ankle to lift my whole foot. Let's do 5. How easy or challenging does this feel? Last 2. So I'm moving at my ankle joint. Now here's just the toes. Now most of my foot is going to stay down on the ground. I'm going to lift all 10 toes. So this part of my foot is on the ground. toes, lift and lower, and lift and lower. All right, here's your super duper brain teaser. Can you put all 4 toes down except your big toe? Oh boy, just the big toe. And you might need to hold your other toes down to lift just your big toe. And one foot might be different than the other. Now here's the big toe down. Lift your other 4 toes. So can you smush your big toe into the floor? Now this you could play with endless variations. You could go pinky ring, third, second, big, lift all 10 toes, big toe, second. Oh, that's hard for me to do. How many different ways can you lift your toes? Can you articulate your toes? Or do they all move like one little horse's hoof, a little block of wood? Okay, take a little rest break. So we did a version of lifting your heels, versions of lifting your toes. Let's try eversion, inversion, or supination, pronation. Lean on your pinky toe side of your foot. Imagine the bottoms of your feet could look at each other. And you can see my legs can move as well. And then lean on the big toe side of your foot. So if your bottoms of your feet are now looking at the sidewall. Do that a couple times. Notice what happens when you roll your feet out, pinky toe down, big toe up. Roll your feet in, out, and it is 1 foot move further, one direction. So we want to have the ability to mobilize all of our joints and then also to control or stabilize so that I can have full range of motion, but I'm also working in an economic fashion. Okay, now we could try that whole thing too from standing. Easiest to do 1 foot at a time, out and in, out and in, second foot. You could theoretically do this both feet standing, rolling out, rolling in. If you try this and go, oh, that's too much for today, come back to the chair and sit. Rolling out and in. So that's another variation. And in. Take a little walk and just notice what happens when you walk. Notice how your feet move. So a healthy gait, when my foot, when I go from heel to toe, there's a little bit of a compression of that arch. So we think of this movement as like forward and back, and my foot is doing that. But there's also, in addition to this direction, there's also a little bit of that flattening of your arch. And then as you roll off of your foot, your arch comes back up. So I don't want a totally stiff foot. So let's practice a couple different kinds of walking. See if you can make your foot and ankle really stiff. Get my chair out of the way. So imagine that you had a super stiff shoe on and you didn't have any movement capabilities in your foot, ankles, toes. This may feel like what it feels like for you to walk if you've had an injury or just some stiffness. So if you had a little robot foot that didn't flex, now flex your toes like we were doing on the floor and see how that feels to walk on your heels. Now come up on your tippy toes. And can you walk with your heels off the ground, like in your high heels? And then if this feels comfortable today, to turn your feet out and walk. And then turn your feet in and walk. So none of this is how you would actually walk around town. This is just a little mobility drill to play with. Now go back to just normal walking gait. Notice what happens when you walk. Do you shuffle? Do you make noise when you walk? Are you a stomper? Do you land heavy on your foot? Does your gait change if you walk slowly versus quickly? Try a quick walk and see what happens when you walk fast across the room. And then one more round slow-mo. Hang on to something if you need. Go find your dining chair again or the wall and see if you can roll from your heel onto your big toe. Now I'm pushing off with this back foot. For a moment, I'm standing just on one leg. Heel, rocking forward. Now look at what happened to my back foot. There's that big toe flexion I was talking about. Here's your momentary single leg balance. Heel, toe. So where is the missing link? What do you notice as you practice this slow walk? Is it big toe flexibility? Is it pulling your toes back? Is it curled under toes? And then here's your official stretch for today. I'm going to show two versions of this calf stretch. I got us 2 minutes on the timer starting right now. I'm going to step one foot back. I'm hanging on to my chair. My left foot is my back leg. My toes are spread wide. My heel is on the ground. So I'm going to flip around just to show what this looks like. I've got my legs wide enough like I'm on railroad tracks. So I'm not on a tightrope. I've got my feet at least hip distance, and I'm not doing this. My foot isn't turned out. My heel is pointing straight back. Here's the side view. So I'm hanging on to something to help me balance, pushing this back heel into the ground, trying to anchor that back heel. So you may notice more stretch down the back of your leg. It may feel like the front of your ankle is where you're feeling some tightness. Okay, now, second option here, you can soften your back knee. So you might need to shorten your stance a little bit. Heel down, shorten maybe, and bend your back knee. And remember, I've got feet all 10 toes pointing straight ahead. Trying to keep my heel down and breathe. If you need a break, if you need to come out of this, just come out and take a rest break. If you can hang with me for another 40 seconds. And again, here's my stance. I'm in. Toes point straight ahead. Heel goes straight back. So if I do this, if I rotate my hip and my leg, I just won't get this effective of a stretch as if I'm in that parallel. Then you could play with bending and straightening your back knee. Breathe. So the tissue on the back of your heel, plantar fascia, your calf, the back, bottom of your calf muscle, your Achilles, is more of that saran wrappy kind of tight tissue. It doesn't get as much circulation as like a big, juicy, meaty muscle does. So this is the reason, oh look, we're already at 2 minutes. This is the reason I like to do a nice 2-minute hold. I'm gonna flip around to show my other leg. Pardon me, because you're gonna look at my butt. Here we go, 2 minutes on the clock. I like this version better where I put my hand on the wall. I'm on leg number 2, hands on the wall, I should say, plural. So same thing, my camera's at a little bit of an angle, but I'm doing the same exact thing. My foot is back and I'm in that parallel, not turned out, but everything facing forward. My hands on the wall, heel down, and breathe. So I'm giving you 2 options so that if this doesn't feel so good on your shoulders or your wrists, go back to the chair version. But I like this one better because I can really push into the wall. And where are we at? Oh yeah, we could do bending your back knee and you might shorten your stance. Big inhale, big exhale. So we're giving time under tension. We're holding this stretch long enough to allow that tissue to soften. We got just under a minute. You could play with bending and straightening your knee. Or if one of those, if the straight-legged version feels like a better stretch, keep it. If it feels better to bend your knee. Yeah, how much time? We got 30 seconds. Stay with me for another half minute. Spread your toes. Relax your neck. Breathe. And again, if you need a break, take a break. So this calf stretch, I would do this at the end. I put this at the end of our routine. This follows my R.O.S.S program: release, organize, strengthen, and then stretch. So that's usually the last thing that we do is these long held stretches. And there's our 2 minutes. So you could just do this during the day, but for sure, if you've done any squats, deadlifts, any kind of leg exercises, taking some time to do a little quad stretch. Or if you've gone for a long walk or a hilly walk, this is for you. This is your stretch. Okay, let's do our final balance test. Pick whichever side. And if you can remember way back when we started, I got our 1 minute timer going. Spread your toes. See if you can stand on one foot. And so just notice, do your feet feel any different after having done a little bit of massage, a little bit of mobility? Is it feel any easier to balance? Do you have more awareness about how much of your foot is on the ground? And we got 30 seconds in. You need to hang on something or tap your toe down, do so. But just see, what does this feel like to balance on one leg? Yep. And so think about when you could incorporate these really simple, easy moves. Stand on one leg, doing some foot mobility drills. We just sort of blazed through this today. I could do 10 hours on foot health. We got 8 seconds if you can hang with me. It's one of the things I love to talk about. Healthy feet. 2, 1. There's your 1 minute. Come down, take a rest. So what did you feel working in your lower leg? Yeah, let's do leg number 2. So just if you can remember back to when we started, I got our timer going. 3, 2, 1, go. 1 minute. Can you spread your toes? Spread your toes. So you're like on a little duck's foot. You got wide toes, wide base of support. Okay, so all this toe spreading I'm talking about. Think about the footwear you wear most regularly. So are you in Dansko clogs? Are you in Merrell hiking boots? Are you in a tennis shoe, a runner? Are you in dress shoes? What do you wear most of? Do you wear sandals in the summer? Seasonally, right? Are you going to wear different shoes in the winter versus the summer? We're over halfway. If you can hang for another 20 seconds with me on this leg number 2. And then how many of the shoes you have can you spread your toes inside the shoe? Probably not many. It is very challenging to find healthy footwear in a store. So a lot of the shoes that I get, we order them online. Last 2, last 1. There's your 1 minute. Come on down and rest. So it is possible to find a healthy shoe. And what I would consider a healthy shoe, can you spread your toes inside the shoe? So if you're not used to this, it's going to look like a clown shoe. It's going to look real weird because the front of the shoe is going to be foot shaped. I'm not selling any shoes. I don't have any affiliation to these, but I do personally like Lems, Lems. They're out of Colorado. Dr. Ray, Correct Toes, he's here in town, the podiatrist. He has a great shoe list on his website. I've recently found this girl called Anya, Anya, Anya's Reviews. She has tons of stuff. They talk about what makes a healthy shoe. So that's my number one thing. Can you spread your toes in your shoe? A lot of athletic wear, a lot of running shoes, especially Nikes, they often have a heel. So your heel is lifted up. Then they have what's called toe spring. So the front box of the shoe is pulled up, which makes your toes do this. Then often the front of the shoe is narrow. So your toes are crowded together, your heel is elevated, and your foot doesn't have the ability to flex and move. Some of this just can't be avoided. If you're in a soccer cleat, or say your kid does a lot of climbing, like rock climbing. So there are sport-specific shoes, cycling shoes, for example, that do squish your toes, right? You're not in that shoe all day. You're probably doing that for an hour. Get out of it, massage your feet, do some of these exercises. So what are you doing most of the time? Can you comfortably walk around your house barefoot, or do your feet hurt when you don't have some kind of support? If you've got an injury, then you need some support. Then you need your Hokas, your ultras, something with a big arch support, right? So there is a time and a place for that. My hope is that you can use some of this information to help you get strong, help when your feet are out of that acute pain situation and you're ready to start strengthening and mobilizing your feet. Okay, so think about which of these things could you practice? We did versions of lifting your heels, lifting your toes, inversion, eversion, and then we did some silly walks and tested our balance. And if you need help, holler at me. If you want to go through this program together, I'm happy to take you through this in person or on a Zoom like this. And I wish you happy, healthy feet.